In the heart of West Africa, where the earth glows red under the sun and the wind carries the smell of roasted maize, there was a river no one dared to touch. Its waters were dark, still, and cold even on the hottest day. The people called it Odo Ajeji, the stranger's river. No child played near it, no man fetched water from it, and no fisherman dared cast his net into it. They said the river was cursed. Some whispered that it was the home of a great spirit that devoured anything that entered. Others swore that strange lights danced upon its surface at night, and that voices, not of this world, could be heard from its depths. For 50 years, the river was left alone. The grass grew tall around it, hiding the bank, and birds that landed there never returned. But one season, hunger came to the red land village of Ogodo. The yam barns were empty, the streams dried up, and fish became scarce. And in this desperate time, one man, a fisherman named Beo, would dare to break the ancient warning. This is the story of the fisherman who pulled a monster fish from the forbidden river. The sun rose over Ogodo like a burning drum, casting long shadows across the red earth. The air was dry, and the village was quiet, too quiet. No laughter of children playing, no sound of pestle pounding yam. Hunger had stolen the joy from every face. Beo sat outside his small mud hut, staring at the dusty path. His wife, Amina, was inside, trying to calm their crying son, Lomi. The boy's ribs showed under his skin, and Beo's heart tightened. Beo, Amina called softly, "There is no food left. Even the last cassava we had, it has gone bad." Beo did not answer at first. He was a fisherman, proud and skilled, but for weeks the river he knew well had given him nothing. "I will try again today," he said finally. Amina stepped out, shaking her head. "You have tried every day. The fish are gone. Even the elders say this season is cursed." Beo's eyes drifted toward the thick bushes that hid the path to Odo Ajeji. He remembered the stories, how a fisherman long ago had gone there and never returned. But the thought of his hungry child was louder than the voice of fear. Maybe, he whispered to himself, just maybe. That evening, as the sun dipped, Beo sharpened his net hooks and oiled his canoe. He told no one where he was going, for even speaking of the forbidden river could bring trouble. But deep in his heart, he knew tomorrow would not be like other days. The next morning, before the first rooster crowed, Beo slipped out of his hut. His canoe rested on his shoulder, and his fishing net hung like a sleeping snake in his hand. The moon still lingered in the sky, and the world was wrapped in a cool, eerie silence. He avoided the main road and followed a narrow trail behind the yam barns. The path was overgrown with thick grass and low branches that scratched at his arms. Every step forward made his heart beat faster. The deeper he went, the more the air changed. The smell of wet earth filled his nose, and the faint sound of water reached his ears. It was not the cheerful splash of a friendly stream, but a deep, steady breathing, like the river itself was alive. "Turn back, Beo," a voice seemed to whisper from the rustling leaves. He froze and looked around. No one was there. Only the trees stood still, their twisted branches reaching like fingers toward him. At last, he pushed through a final wall of bushes, and there it was, Odo Ajeji. The water was black as night, smooth as polished stone. Mist clung to its surface even though the air was warm. Not a bird sang. Not an insect buzzed. Beo set down his canoe, his hands trembling slightly. He remembered the elders' warnings, the stories of men who vanished without a trace. But he also remembered Lomi's hollow eyes, Amina's worried face, and the empty pot in their hut. He whispered a prayer, lowered his canoe into the still water, and stepped in. The river gave no greeting, no ripple, just silence. Pushing off from the bank, Beo paddled slowly toward the center, where the water seemed darkest. Somewhere in that shadowy depth, his fate waited. Beo's canoe drifted in the middle of the forbidden river. The silence around him was so deep that the sound of his own breathing seemed too loud. He dipped his paddle gently, watching small circles form on the water and disappear like they had been swallowed. The air here felt heavy, as though it carried the weight of many untold stories. Beo took a deep breath and reached for his net. The rope was rough against his fingers, familiar yet strangely foreign in this place. "One cast," he whispered. If nothing comes, I will leave. With a swift, practiced motion, he threw the net wide. It spread in the air like the wings of a bird before sinking beneath the black water. He waited, counting heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. Suddenly, the rope in his hands twitched. Beo's eyes widened. A fish. Here. He pulled, but the weight was unlike anything he had ever felt before. It was not the sharp tug of a tilapia or the sudden dart of a catfish. It was steady, massive, unyielding. The canoe swayed as he struggled. His arms burned, and sweat formed on his forehead. "What are you?" he muttered under his breath. Then, just as suddenly as it had pulled, the net went slack. Beo's heart dropped. He thought it had escaped. But when he pulled the net back into the canoe, he found something strange, a single, enormous silver scale, bigger than his palm, shimmering with colors that shifted in the light. It was beautiful and frightening. He looked at the water. Somewhere beneath, something vast was moving. He could feel it in his bones. Beo knew he should leave. Every part of his body told him so. But the hunger in his home and the mystery of this creature rooted him in place. He threw the net again. Beo's hands tightened on the rope as he threw the net again. This time, the splash was louder, echoing against the silent river banks. The ripple spread, then vanished, leaving the water smooth once more. He waited. 1 breath, 2 breaths. Then it came, a pull so strong it almost dragged him into the water. The canoe lurched dangerously to one side, and cold river spray hit his face. He planted his feet and pulled with all his strength. The rope cut into his palms, but he did not let go. The thing beneath the water was alive, powerful, and heavy. It thrashed, sending waves against the canoe. Beo gritted his teeth and leaned back, the muscles in his arms screaming. "I will not lose you," he whispered. "Not after coming this far." Suddenly, the water broke, a flash of silver and gold, the shape of a tail unlike any fish he had ever seen. It slapped the surface with a deafening splash, drenching him from head to toe. The canoe rocked wildly. For a moment, Beo thought he would capsize. But then the creature dove again, dragging the net deeper, deeper. The struggle seemed endless. But slowly, painfully, the weight in the net began to rise. The surface of the river shivered, and a massive head emerged, eyes glowing faintly, mouth wide enough to swallow a man whole. Beo's breath caught in his throat. It was not just a fish. It was something older, something that belonged to the river itself. The creature's head loomed above the black mysterious water, glistening with silver scales that shimmered in strange patterns. Its eyes were deep pools of light, and in them, Beo saw something he could not explain, wisdom and warning. It made a low sound, not quite a growl, not quite a hum, that vibrated through the water and into Beo's bones. The net strained against the weight, threads threatening to snap. Beo's heart pounded. Every fisherman's dream was to catch the biggest fish, but this was something from a legend. He thought of Amina and Lomi. If he brought this creature back, it could feed the whole village for weeks. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered, "Some things are not meant to be taken." The fish thrashed again, sending waves crashing against the canoe. Beo nearly lost his grip, but he pulled harder, his breath ragged. Then, the creature did something strange, it stopped struggling. It floated there, looking at him, almost as if waiting. Beo froze, unsure what to do. And then, he heard it, not with his ears, but inside his mind, "Release me, or you will take more than food from this river." He shook his head violently, refusing to believe it. Hunger was louder than fear. With a final heave, Beo pulled the massive fish into the canoe. The wood groaned under its weight. The moment it touched the boat, the river around him began to swirl. The once still water of Odo Ajeji came alive, spinning in furious circles. The mist thickened, curling around Beo like ghostly fingers. The air grew colder, and a strange hum rose from the depths. Beo's canoe rocked violently. He grabbed his paddle and began to row toward the bank, but it felt as though the river itself was pulling him back. The giant mysterious fish lay still, its glowing eyes locked on his face. Branches along the shore swayed without wind. The trees seemed to lean closer, watching. Beo's breath came in sharp bursts as he fought to reach land. Just when his canoe scraped against the muddy bank, a deep voice echoed through the air, "Not human, not animal. You have taken what does not belong to you." Beo spun around, heart racing. The voice seemed to come from the water itself. The river's surface bubbled, and dark shapes twisted beneath it. His instinct screamed at him to run, but his canoe was too heavy to lift with the fish inside. Gathering all his strength, he dragged it onto dry land. The moment the fish touched the red earth, the river went silent again, as if nothing had happened. But the air still felt heavy, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled though the sky was clear. When Beo entered the village carrying the giant fish, the people stopped what they were doing. Women dropped their calabashes, men froze mid-step, and children pointed with wide eyes. The fish was unlike anything they had ever seen. Its body shone with colors that shifted in the sunlight, and its eyes, still faintly glowing, made some villagers step back in fear. Elder Olu, the oldest man in Ogodo village, hobbled forward. His gaze was sharp and heavy. "Where did you catch this, Beo?" he asked. Beo hesitated. In the river." The elder's eyes narrowed. "Which river?" Beo swallowed hard. "Odo Ajeji." A wave of gasps swept through the crowd. Women covered their mouths, and the men muttered to each other. Elder Olu's face darkened. "Foolish boy," the elder said, his voice trembling with anger and fear. "That river is not for man. You have brought danger to us all." But the hunger in the villagers' eyes was stronger than their fear. "Elder," one man said, "this fish can feed the whole village. Let us eat before it spoils." A murmur of agreement spread. Elder Olu shook his head. "This is no ordinary catch. Return it before the river claims its due." But Beo stood firm. "My family is starving. I will not return it." The elder turned away, sadness in his eyes. "Then may the ancestors have mercy on us." By sunset, the giant fish was laid on a wide wooden table in the village square. Fires were lit, and the smell of roasting flesh soon filled the air. Children danced in excitement, and the people laughed for the first time in many weeks. Beo sat beside Amina and Lomi, pride swelling in his chest. The fish's scales had been removed, its glowing eyes dimmed. Plates were passed around, and everyone ate greedily. The meat was tender and rich, unlike any fish they had tasted before. But as the night deepened, strange things began to happen. The wind picked up, carrying a low hum, the same hum Beo had heard on the river. Flames flickered wildly, and shadows danced on the ground though no one was moving. Lomi, who had been happily chewing, suddenly stopped. "Papa, the fish is looking at me." Beo froze. The head of the fish, though cooked, seemed to turn slightly, its empty eye sockets facing the boy. He brushed it off as his imagination, but unease crept into his heart. The elder refused to eat a single bite, sitting quietly in the dark. "Mark my words," he murmured, "a price will be paid." That night, the village slept soundly after the feast, all except Beo. His dreams were filled with swirling waters and glowing eyes watching from the deep. He awoke to distant screams. Rushing outside, he saw water flooding the village square, though there had been no rain. It seeped from the ground itself, cold and dark. One by one, doors opened, and frightened villagers stepped out, whispering prayers. The water rose to their ankles, then their knees. And in the middle of it all, the head of the great fish floated, glowing brighter than before. It opened its mouth, and the same voice Beo had heard on the river echoed, "You took from me, now I take from you." The water surged higher, sweeping away baskets, stools, and even goats. Elder Olu raised his staff. "Return the fish to the river, Beo, or we are all lost." With the flood rising, Beo ran to where the remains of the fish lay. He grabbed them, ignoring the heat of the fire that still smoldered. Amina cried out, "You drown." But Beo waded into the dark water, which pulled at him like eager hands. He fought to reach the path to Odo Ajeji. The river seemed to be calling him, its voice deep and ancient. When he reached the bank, the water rushed forward, dragging him in. The current carried him to the center, where he let go of the fish. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the water calmed. The glow faded. The river was still again. Beo swam back, exhausted. The flood in the village slowly drained away, leaving behind wet, silent streets. The people looked at him, some with gratitude, some with blame. Elder Olu simply said, "Remember, Beo, some waters are better left untouched." From that day on, no one in Ogodo village went near Odo Ajeji again. The path to the river grew wide, and the stories of that night became a warning passed from parent to child. Beo learned that hunger can drive a man to take risks, but not all risks are worth the reward. Some treasures are traps, and some victories carry a cost too heavy to bear. The monster fish was never seen again, but the people believed it still lived in the depths, watching, waiting, guarding its home. In our own lives, we too face forbidden rivers, places, choices, or temptations that seem to promise great reward but hide great danger. It is wisdom, not hunger or greed, that keeps us safe. And so, dear listener, if you ever find yourself standing at the edge of your own Odo Ajeji, remember Beo's story. Think twice before you cast your net. If you watch this video till this very end, you're amazing. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel for more interesting folktale stories like this.